So, good morning. So, our first lecture in the second semester will be about reading techniques. So, first of all, we define what is reading. Reading is a complex cognitive process of decoding symbols in order to construct or derive meanings. Reading is a mean of language acquisition, communication, and sharing information and ideas. The purpose for reading also determines the appropriate approach to reading comprehension. A person who needs to know whether she can afford to eat at a particular restaurant needs to comprehend the pricing information provided on the menu but does not need to recognize the name of every appetizer. A person reading poetry for enjoyment needs to recognize the words the poet uses and the way they are put together, but does not need to identify main ideas and supporting details. However, a person using a scientific article to support an opinion needs to know the vocabulary that is used, understand the facts and cause and effect sequences that are presented, and recognizes ideas that are presented and hypotheses which are given. Reading as a process. Reading is an interactive process that goes on between the reader and the text, resulting in a comprehension. The text presents letters, words, sentences, and paragraphs that encode meanings. The reader uses knowledge, skills, and strategies to determine what that meaning is. Readers' knowledge, skills, and strategies include three things. First of all, four things, sorry. First of all, linguistic competence, which is the ability to recognize the elements of the writing system. Knowledge of the vocabulary and how words are structured into sentences. Second, discourse competence, which is knowledge of discourse markers and how they connect parts of the text to one another, which is the connectors. Sociolinguistic competence, knowledge about the types of text and their usual structure and content. Fourth, which is not in the video, which is the strategic competences, the ability to use top-down strategies as well as knowledge of the language. Reading comprehension is thus much more than decoding. Reading comprehension results when the readers know which skill and strategies are appropriate for the type of text and understand how to apply them to accomplish the reading purpose. Now we move to goals and techniques for teaching reading. First of all, reading process. It can develop students' awareness of the reading process and reading strategies by asking students to think and talk about how they read in their native language. First of all, allow students to participate the full repertoire of reading strategies by using reading materials. Second, students participate reading strategies in classing their reading assignments. It encourages students to be conscious of what they are doing while they complete reading assignments. Second, it is integrating reading strategies. Instructors can help their students to become more effective readers by teaching them how to use strategies before, during, and after reading. Before reading, plan for the reading task, set a purpose, which is our purpose, set a purpose in advance what to read for. Discuss if more linguistic or background knowledge is needed. During and after reading, verify prediction and check for inaccurate guesses. Decide what is and what is not important to understand. Read to check comprehension. And last, ask for help. Now, after reading, evaluate comprehension and strategies uses. Evaluate comprehension in a particular task or area and modify the strategies if necessary. Now, what are the strategies for developing reading skill? There are four things. Here we are going to study three of the most common strategies needed. Now, the first strategy is previewing. It is common for students to dive into academic texts and begin reading in a hurry, which is often counterproductive. When reading for academic purposes, it is preferable to read with certain goals in mind. This will enable you to place your focus on the proper elements of the reading and to avoid wasting time on elements which aren't important for your purpose. Your professor and teachers may read with their research goal in mind. As a student, your primary purpose is reading are shaped by the course you're taking and the paper you're writing. Spend a few minutes previewing a text before starting to read in order to orient yourself toward what is important for you in, in this reading. Here is the basic methods which you can apply to many texts. Not every question will be relevant for all texts, and you may find additional questions to ask yourself. So here are the questions. Read the text, don't skip over it. Titles are chosen to orient the reader and should give a sense for the central concept in the text. Second, think about the subject matter. Have you read about this topic before? Where and when? What do you already know about it? Or what might you guess? Is it linked in some way to your personal experience? Do you already have your opinion about some aspects of this topic? 3. Who wrote this text? What information do you have about this author? Does any information about the author appears anywhere on the title page or elsewhere in the text? If the author is an historical figure, what do you know? What do you already know about him or her? Fourth, where was this text originally published? What type of publication is this? And where does it find this field of study? Who would be the audience for this kind of writing? What would the audience expect to find in this text? 5. When was this text originally published? What is the significance of this time period? In this field of study, is the text historical, current, or is it possibly outdated? What were the major events or theoretical trends around the time of the text? When was it written or published? Sixth, read the chapter titles or the headlines. That breaks up the chapters or article. What seems to be the general progression of ideas here? Seventh, why was your professor assigned this text? Where does it fit into the course as a whole? What kind of facts and ideas are you expected to retain from reading this text? Now we move to the second strategy, which is skimming. Skimming and scanning. Skimming and scanning are reading techniques that uses rapid eye movements and keywords to move quickly throughout the text for slightly different purposes. Skimming is reading rapidly in order to get a general overview of the material. Scanning is reading rapidly in order to find specific facts. While skimmings tell you what general information is within a session, scanning help you locate a particular fact. Skimming is like snorkeling, and scanning is more like pearl diving. Use skimming in previewing, which is reading before you read. Reading before you read determines the main idea from a long selection you don't wish to read, or what trying to find sources material for a research paper. Use scanning in research to find a particular facts to study fact heavy topics and to answer questions requiring factual support. Skimming to save time. Skimming can save you hours of laboring reading. However, it is not always the most appropriate way to read. It is very useful as preview to more details reading when reviewing a selection of heavy content. But when you skim, you may miss important points or overlook the finer shading of meanings, for which rapid reading or perhaps even study reading may be necessary. Use skimming to overview your textbook chapter or to review for a test. Use skimming to decide if you need to read something at all. For example, during the preliminary research for a paper, skimming can help you enough about the general idea and tone of the material, as well as its gross similarity or differences from other sources. To know if you need to general to know if you need to read it at all. To skim, prepare yourself to move rapidly throughout the paper. You will not read every word. You will pay special attention to typographical cues, heading, boldfaces, and italic types. Indenting, bulleted, and numbered lists. You will be alert for keywords and phrases, the name of people, places, dates, nouns, and unfamiliar words. In general, follow these steps. These steps are for skimming. Read the table of content chapter, which is the chapter overview, to learn the main division of ideas. Glance throughout the main headings in each chapter just to see a word or two. Read the headings of charts and tables. Read the entire introductory paragraph and then the first and last sentence only of each following paragraph. For each paragraph, read only the first few words of each sentences or locate the main idea. Stop and quickly read the sentences containing keywords indicated in boldface or italic. When you think you have found something significant, stop and read the entire sentence to make sure. Then go on the same way. Resist the temptation to stop to read details you do not need. Read chapter summaries when provided. If you cannot complete all the steps above, compromise, read only the chapter overview and summarize. For example, on the summaries and all the bold-faced keywords. When you skim, you take calculated risk that you may miss something. For instance, the main idea of paragraphs are not always found in the first or last sentences, although in many textbooks they are. Ideas you miss, you may pick up in chapter overview or summaries. Good skimmers do not skim everything at the same time and at the same rate, or give equal attention to everything. While skimming is always faster than your normal reading speed, you should slow down in the following situation. When you skim introductory and concluding paragraphs, when you skim topic sentences, when you find an unfamiliar words, and when the material is very complicated. Now, scanning for research and study. Scanning too uses keywords and organizational cues. But while the goal of skimming is a bird's eye view of the material, the goal of scanning is to locate and swoop down a particular fact. Facts may be buried within long text passages that have relatively little else to do with your topic or claim. Skim this material first to decide if this is likely to contain the facts you need. Don't forget to scan tables of content, summaries, indexes, headings, and typographical cues to make sense of list and table. Skim them first to understand how they are organized, alphabetical, chronological, or most to least, for example. If after skimming you decide the material will be useful, go ahead and scan. You know what you're looking for, decide on a few keywords or phrases, search terms if you will. You will be flesh and blood search engine. Look for only one keyword at the time. If you use multiple keywords, do not multiple scan. Let your eye float rapidly down the paper until you found the words and phrases you want. When your eye catches one of your keywords, read the surrounding materials carefully. Scanning to answer questions. If you are scanning for facts to answer a specific question, one step is already done for you. The question itself supplies the keywords. Following these steps, read each question completely before starting to scan. Choose your keywords from the question itself. Look for answers to only one question at a time. Scan separately for each question. When you locate keywords, read the surrounding text carefully to see if it is relevant. Reread the question to determine if the answer you found answers this question. Scanning is a technique that requires concentration and can be surprisingly tiring. You may have to participate at not allowing your attention to wander. Choose a time and place that you know works for you and dive in. To conclude our course, comprehension is the only reason for reading. Within comprehension, reading is frustrating, pointless exercise in words calling. It is not exaggeration to say that how well students develop the ability to comprehend what they read has a profound effect on their entire lives. Comprehension instructions followed what the study called mentioning, practicing, and assessing procedure, where teachers mention a specific skill by completing workbook pages. It is plausible that preparation in the nature of the foundational reading skill and research-based instructional approaches would improve teachers' practice to a degree that would be evidence in earning outcomes for their students. So this concludes our course about the skills that are needed when reading. This will allow you to read faster, to catch more information, and to gather more data in your future research.